And it's just not right. This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia and 40 other states. What it's all about. It is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic.
He called this Jim Crow on steroids. How do you even do that? It completely undermines the true evils of Jim Crow, and it compares a voter law, which in itself, compared to Jim Crow, is quite mundane, and completely exacerbates it, and explicitly is calling it racist and even worse than Jim Crow. This is absolutely ridiculous, and I can't believe that even Joe Biden would say something like that. Let's go into the differences between the actual Jim Crow laws and this Georgia voter bill which was passed. Okay, so Joe Biden is not all the way with it. We can see that immediately because no rational person could ever say that this was worse than Jim Crow or Jim Eagle. A bigger version of a crow is what I assume he was trying to go for. This Georgia voting bill is actually quite mundane, and compared to even more left-leaning states, it actually expands the right to vote in many instances. One problem we have in this country is that people don't trust our voting system. And I'm not one of the people that thinks that the 2020 election was rigged, but if you keep passing these laws that prohibit voter ID, what are voters going to think? Seriously, we want to instill trust in the public in the system of elections. And how do you know if there's election fraud or not if you don't even have to present an ID when you're voting? Voter ID is extremely popular. And as you can see in this Gallup poll from 2016, 80% of people support early voting and 80% of people support voter IDs. It just makes common sense. You need to have a photo ID in order to be able to vote. Like I said, it really is important for trusting these systems of elections. Even if you were to say that there's no evidence of voter fraud, people would be able to come back at that saying, sure, there might be no evidence of voter fraud, but how do we know that the election was secure if we don't know the actual nuances? We don't know actually who's voting. So this bill requires a voter ID to be done in person and as well as absentee ballots, which is completely fair. We need to know who is going to vote. Election day polls are still open the exact same number of hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and early voting polls still have to be open for the same number of hours, but the bill adds flexibility to allow for different counties to be able to choose which hours during the day they're allowed to open, to streamline the voting process and adapt for different situations. Joe Biden was fact-checked by the Washington Post, the rare time that Joe Biden get fact-checks for saying this. He said, among the outrageous parts of this new state law, it ends voting hours early so working people can't cast their vote after their shift is over. This is absolutely false. The voting hours on Election Day are the exact same, and the only difference is adding a different definition of a business day to allow for more flexible hours depending on a different situation. This is not racist, just like voter ID laws are not racist at all. It's not that hard to get an ID. You can get an ID pretty dang quickly, and you can go vote. Every citizen has the right, but you have responsibilities to be able to do it. Get an ID and find your place to vote. There's plenty of time. Georgia, you can vote early, you can vote on Election Day, no matter what. Now let's talk about Jim Crow laws. They included black codes, which limited the basic rights of African Americans, such as their free ability to work. Even after slavery ended, sharecropping was increasingly popular in the South, and these people were not being paid fair wages. Their wages were being cut, and the state governments were actively stepping in to make sure that black people were denied their rights. Regarding actual voting restrictions, also, literacy tests could have to be passed for the sole purpose of limiting the black vote. These are actually racist bills. These are actually racist ideas that passed. Regarding more examples of this, people have been saying that the Georgia voting bill bans food and water for people coming to vote. This isn't true. What it does is it stops partisan people within 150 feet of a polling place give gifts to people who are coming to vote, thus attempting to make voting less partisan. If you want water or if you want food, you can get it 150 feet away from the polling station, or you could just get it before you come and vote. Georgia's new voting law is mundane compared to everything that we've already seen. It actually, in a lot of situations, extends voting hours and people's ability to vote, and it's a lot less restrictive than that of other states. The fact of the matter is, we want to make our elections more secure, we want to make them more fair, and we want to instill trust in the U.S. electoral system for both parties and for all people. Jim Crow laws, on the other hand, they literally took away basic rights of African Americans and other minorities. They forced businesses, not even giving them the option, they forced businesses to exclude and make separate facilities for people who were black. This could be like bathrooms, this could be seating at a stadium. There are so many examples of this. This could be water fountains, this could be hotels, this could be anything. Sometimes it was optional, sometimes it was forced. Absolutely nothing, Joe Biden, like the Georgia voting bill. Absolutely nothing. There were also times where schools were forced to be segregated. White people could not go to school with black people. They couldn't. Until Brown v. Board, this was allowed. This was allowed, and this was done, and this was forced by states and localities and counties. It's despicable. And the fact that Joe Biden is comparing these things and calling it Jim Crow on steroids is absolutely disgusting. And it should be a disgrace for people who actually had to live through this and people who actually had family to live through this. This voting bill does not take away the right for African Americans to vote. It makes it so we can instill more fairness and faith in this election system and make it more transparent and make it so when we have a result of an election, everyone will be able to trust it. People said Trump divided this country with his rhetoric, and I believe to an extent that was true. I agreed with him a lot in policies, but I believed he could be a little bit too inflammatory at times. But calling people racist inadvertently for saying that they support a law which makes it more secure and more safe to vote and allows for more hours and adds some basic restrictions which are not racist is just going to exacerbate the division in this country. If Joe Biden's supposed to be the great uniter after Trump, like everyone says he is, how is this possibly going to unite the country? Saying this is Jim Crow on steroids? Rhetoric matters. Trump could never get away with saying something like this. The media would be all over him. And do you see this in the media? No. Finding that clip, I had to dig and dig and dig and dig to find it. It's insane. It's insane, the discrepancies. I don't think Trump had the greatest rhetoric. I believed he could be too inflammatory. I believe that it disrupted from his policy goals and his ability to compromise. I believe that. But I also believe that Joe Biden, by saying these things I showed at the beginning of this video, is absolutely despicable. It's despicable. How do you say these things when you're claiming to unite the country? Let me tell you this. 80% of the country likes voter ID laws. 80%. And a vast majority of people do not think that this is racist. It's not racist. It's a small fraction of people, even when it comes to corporations like the MLB, Delta, and Coca-Cola. It's not racist, and we should not be describing it as such. And Joe Biden is using his position as the president to call it racist, and by association, say that people like me who actually believe in this law are pushing racist ideas, which is absolute nonsense. Thank you guys for watching this video. I had to go on a little bit of a rant there. I'm just incensed about this, and I'm incensed that the media is not giving these statements more coverage. Joe Biden can get away with saying that this is worse than Jim Crow laws, but the media would be all over Trump for literally anything he would say. If this doesn't show a bias in the media, I truly don't know what does. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any suggestions for my videos, please drop a comment below. I'm trying to improve them, and I'll be back soon with another one, probably regarding a similar subject. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all later.